Hello friends, welcome back. Today we'll continue with the clinical pharmacy part 2 in hospital and clinical pharmacy. Myself, Miss Malvi Rajendra Bhavsar, KK Institute of Pharmacy. So clinical pharmacy part 2. The learning outcomes after watching this video, student will be able to learn definition, concept, role of clinical pharmacy and scope of clinical pharmacy. So, further scope for clinical pharmacy are drug diagnostic test interference, intravenous admixture, drug information specialist. A clinical pharmacist, being an expert on a drug, may operate a drug information services through effective utilization and retrieval of clinical drug literature. The pharmacist can actively communicate drug information. He can help during medical emergencies by providing immediate information on antidotes in case of poisoning or overdosing. Then, retail pharmacist too. Many OTC drugs have potential to interact with prescription drug. A clinical pharmacist at a retail drugstore can maintain the patient drug profile, family drugs profile, and family record based upon which the pharmacist can counsel the patient each time while filling the prescriptions. He can determine the patient responses to the drug therapy and help him in the selection and use of OTC drug. Then discharge counseling and patient compliances. The compliances to drug therapy can be improved several times by educating and counseling the patient at the time of discharge from the hospital, all while dispensing the prescription at the retail counter. The patient may be made aware of the purpose of medication, proper mode of administration, dosage schedule, and storage condition. He may be told of any potential adverse or side effect to expect and any food or activities to be avoided during the therapy. Then, clinical research and continuing education program. The clinical pharmacist can participate in an evaluation program on investigation drug. He can help in conducting clinical trial based on sound principle of biostatistical method of evaluation. He can also develop the training programs for pharmacists, nurses, and interns. Then medical audit. Medical audit is a logical and necessary procedure with organized teamwork. The clinical pharmacist is either initiator or a very active member of functioning committee, following are the activities concerning with medical audit. So first is legislation, contractual obligation, regulation and registration of pharmacotherapy orders and administration, regulation of clinical experiment with drug, information per subject and per patient, pharmacotherapy committee policy, regulation of information from the pharmaceutical industry, local original microsymposia per patient, formulary policy, retrospective study of drug used patterns, medical audit committee work. Then legislation. The pharmacist is responsible for the quality of medicine he dispenses. Contractual obligations. The authorized pharmacist should be charged with the supervision over the maintenance of organization included involving the storage, the distribution and the registration of drug regardless they are in the pharmacy or elsewhere in the institution. Regulation and registration of pharmacotherapy order and administration. Clinical pharmacy must provide the means of pharmacotherapy. The follow-up should be viewed by the pharmacist with the head nurse and the medical director. Specific problems should be discussed with the concerned members and healthcare team and representatives. Then regulation and clinical experiment, the drug, regulation of clinical trial is necessary to ensure there are no ethical problems that may harm patient, to control trials, to control pharmacotherapy through registration and processing request for the use of unregistered drug, purchasing, control of stock and turnover, quality control, supply, compounding, control of code and key of blind experiment, reporting of deviation of standard operating and registration procedure to directorate. Then information per subject and per patient. It may be provided by clinical pharmacy. Information is a service and should be given unasked for when deemed necessary. Pharmacotherapy committee is in these information specific subject policies prepared with a multidisciplinary team and produced as advice. Clinical pharmacists can recommend it, motivate, and must ensure the continuity of pharmacotherapy committee work. The regulation information of the pharmaceutical industry. Promotional activities of pharmaceutical industry are primarily physician oriented. Part of their information may be essential. Clinical pharmacists and physicians have a different requirement for additional information. Thus, it is possible to select the information and representatives from industry for the discussion of specific subject with clinical pharmacist and physician. Then goal. Goal of clinical pharmacy. The goal is to promote the correct and appropriate use of medicinal product and devices. These activities aim at maximizing the clinical effect of medicines, minimizing the risk of treatment-induced adverse event, minimizing the expenditure for pharmacological treatment. Then clinical pharmacy requirements. So requirement for clinical pharmacy is first knowledge of non-drug therapy, knowledge of drug therapy, knowledge of disease, knowledge of laboratory and diagnostic skills, communication skill, patient monitoring skill, physical assessment skill, drug information skill, therapeutic planning skill. Thank you.